So let's move to the conclusion keynote of the afternoon with Lanny Cohen, Chief Innovation Officer at Capgemini Group, on artificial intelligence trend technologies. Thank you for welcoming Lanny.
I've got the fun task of coming close to ending the program today and trying to keep you all inspired for the next 30 minutes. So I'm going to build to a little bit of a crescendo. I'm going to start with a little review of a piece of research we recently done on the combination of artificial intelligence and customer experience. Then I'm going to take you through some new positioning of Capgemini in our approach to AI in the market. And I think there's some really excellent ideas and learnings in that about how you can apply it in your companies as well, and some things to think about. And then I'm going to end with a little piece of an actual project that we did in the UK that I think you'll find via video to be pretty fascinating. Okay? So let me start with a little bit about this recent research work we've done. And the research is on customer experience and the application of AI there. And you may find before you leave today around the floor a copy of that research. So, or if you're interested, you can let us know and we'll make sure you do get a copy. But I'm going to go through this quick, and any of you have ever kind of heard a presentation on research, it's a little difficult, okay? So bear with me. Hopefully you've had enough espresso and coffee to kind of get you through this. But what we did is we went out and we did a global survey of companies around the world and saw how they were applying AI to the customer experience. And I think what was quite interesting from this research wasn't just about the company's view of AI, but more importantly, I think the consumer and the customer's view of AI. So let me take you through some of the findings. So first of all, over a majority of the people surveyed felt that they would prefer an interaction that had artificial intelligence, but with human interaction. The respondents, were not that much in favor of kind of an AI-only experience, and they certainly saw the benefits of AI, but only when it was combined with human involvement in the interaction. The second one was around what we tried to survey was what was the benefits that consumers would really see with, again, an AI human type of interaction. And what was interesting is I think three things came out in terms of the top benefits. There was many, but the top three were, first of all, consumers felt that they could get and still have greater control over the interaction. That if it was just AI, through a customer service system, they lost control over that. So with a human interaction and AI combined, they had more control. The second thing they liked about it, which is where the AI part came in, is there was 24/7 availability of service and interaction with the company, and that was perceived as a big benefit. And then the third benefit was around faster resolution of support issues. Again, realizing that many companies that if they could only staff a customer support center for 8 or 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, at least this way with AI, they could get 24/7 access to that. I think this was a very, very big finding, and I'm not so sure part of it wasn't surprising, and I think part of it maybe was a little surprising. But when people were asked about kind of their expectations around AI and human customer experiences, the two things that came out was, one, people felt like with AI they had a bigger opportunity for personalization of customer experience, and that was very, very important for consumers. But the other thing that surfaced in this research was the need and the interest for trust and transparency in the process. And I think because of all the issues going on with AI today, especially in the consumer space around privacy and openness and this type of thing, this was found to be a very, very prominent feature of what consumers felt was going to be necessary. Now let me switch a little bit to the kind of the organization view. So that's a little bit of view from the consumer side, but from the organization side, I think this is also interesting, is that companies for the most part are still not applying a consumer lens when they're looking at customer experience and AI, which sounds almost counterintuitive. We're dealing with customer experience, why would we not apply a consumer lens? And if we're not applying a consumer lens, what are we applying? And the finding was that in the overwhelming majority of cases, we're still looking at these types of technologies from a cost reduction and efficiency perspective. So companies are still looking at the application of AI to the consumer experience as a way to reduce costs. So take more humans out of the process, I can replace it with technology and save money, which is, I think, is a very dangerous slope to go down at a time when consumers are looking for, certainly for more personalization. The next comment was, again, it gets back to this comment about transparency, but 2 out of every 3 customers surveyed felt that they wanted to be informed when AI technology was being used in the interaction. So they didn't want to, be reliant on figuring out themselves or seeing if, they're talking to a human or not a human, and from some of the advances going on in the market today around some of the voice technologies that Ron was talking about earlier today, the ability to differentiate between human voice and machine voice is getting less and less. So customers now are asking, tell us when an AI technology is being used for the interactions going forward. And then one additional piece of finding here is when we kind of bring this all together, there's 5 themes that kind of the best-in-class companies seem to be leveraging when it comes to this. First of all is that, again, leading with the customer lens over the cost and the ROI lens is very, very important as kind of a key finding. The second is not to be fooled by the technology, okay? Customer orientation, expectations, outcome orientation is much more important than what the technologies can and cannot do. Recommendation engines are still very much favored, and this gets into the personalization aspect. Okay, if you're going to scale your consumer experience and be able to personalize, AI, recommendation engines, chatbots are seen as very, very good solutions for that. The fourth one is about being transparent, and again, I reinforce that because if you take a look at this research, what it finds is you can't be transparent enough, that consumers in the market today want that degree of openness and trust. And then finally, customers prefer some type of value for their information. Okay, so you can incent customers to provide information, and oftentimes what the survey suggested is they will actually do that. And then I think just in summary, and again, I don't have a lot of time to go through this research in much detail, but if you apply AI and combine it with that human-centered customer experience and human-centered design, that's where you can start to really create some brand differentiation and brand affinity in the market. And there's 4 kind of attributes of that. One is the augmentation of employee intelligence. So again, don't replace the worker, but augment the worker with more AI technology so they can perform a better service to the customer. The depth of customer understanding and being more predictive in the engagement with the customer is quite important. And finally, those conversational interfaces become very, very important, and I think very, very relevant. And at the end of the day, again, customers were found to be very willing to engage as long as that combination of AI and human interaction come together. So I'm going to stop there with the survey. Again, I think there's some very excellent material that you can refer to in this research. Okay, let me step back a little bit now and talk to you about, more broadly about AI, and I think what we're doing at Capgemini, and I think how it has some very interesting applicability to companies today. And the first thing we're often asked in the market is, what is our ambition around AI? Who are we trying to become as a company, and what do we see as our role in the marketplace? And our ambition, quite simply stated, is to become the premier AI-infused IT and consulting services company in the world. And I think what's really special about this ambition is this concept of AI-infused. And just to give you a sense of kind of what we mean by it, it comes in two different dimensions. One is, what does it mean for us in terms of what we bring to the market and our customers? And then what does it mean to us in terms of how we operate at Capgemini? So the first part is, we believe our position is AI is going to be a very pervasive technology. It's going to affect every industry, every company in every industry, and pretty much every process domain in every company. And we believe over time, companies are going to have to understand, how do you infuse, how do you embed, how do you incorporate AI into how business is done? And that's what we mean by IT infused, or AI infused, and how we help customers do that. From the Capgemini side, what it means is that more and more of the solutions and the capabilities that we bring to market are going to have an AI component, be AI-driven, be AI-centric in what they are. We believe our delivery methods and how we build solutions and how we accelerate the deployment of those solutions are going to be more and more dependent on AI. And then finally, many of our internal functions, how we recruit, how we manage resources, how we manage our contracting processes, are also going to be leveraging AI. So we see ourselves becoming more and more of an AI-infused company as well. So that's kind of the big picture of what our ambition is. Now, what's our response? How are we going to do this? So last week, once a year, we have a session where we bring the market analysts that cover our industry together, and we spend 2 days with them sharing our strategy, our plans for the upcoming 12 months, any changes in the organization. And what we introduced last week was something that we call Perform AI by Capgemini. And this is our go-to-market and business strategy around AI. And I want to take you through a little bit about A, what does it mean, and B, why did we choose the word perform? And we think there's special meaning in that word. But what it means is that we want to deliver superior, sustainable, and trusted business performance to the market and to our customers. I think superior business performance, we believe AI can be a business performance differentiator. Sustainable, that's very important. And I don't mean corporate social responsibility sustainability. I mean, how do you sustain the business value that AI can deliver? And I think the third piece is very, very important, and that's this concept of trust. I think what's happening in the world of AI, and frankly in business today, is trust is at an all-time low. Our ability to trust institutions today has never been at a lower point. And we believe AI, while it can do many great things for companies, we think it can also potentially compromise trust even further. If personal information is not managed properly, if things are exposed, if things are not managed well, and things like what we saw Facebook go through this past summer as an example, these are things that can erode trust very, very quickly. So at Capgemini, again, we just don't see ourselves as kind of another AI provider. We're going to provide AI in a very trust-oriented, trust-aware kind of way. Now, why the word perform? What does perform mean, and why did we choose that word? Well, we think perform means 3 things. We think perform is about execution. So our client's ability to execute an AI journey is very, very important, and we believe our customers need help and assistance there. So part of perform is helping to execute that AI journey. Another bit of perform is around accomplishing outcomes. So our strategy around AI is very business outcome oriented. We're not leading with the technology. If you recall from Ron's keynote this morning, he didn't talk a lot about the technology. He kind of brought it in kind of, sideways. He kind of did a little bit on it at the end. But our position around AI is to enable business outcomes and achieve business impacts, not to deploy neural networks for the sake of deploying neural networks or deploying chatbots for the sake of deploying chatbots. And then the third bit of perform is around an effect. And we believe AI is going to be a main driver of companies' digital transformation and digital journeys as they go through. So how can AI become a real engine to create kind of that new positioning of companies in the market to become much more digital enterprises? So Perform AI is, we believe, a very bold ambition, but something that's very, very broad in its application. So what I want to do with the time I have on this piece of the presentation is I want to share with you the four main pillars of Perform AI and some of the things we're going to be doing in each of those, and I think share with you also how they can apply directly to your business. So the first area is around focus. In our AI, Perform AI strategy is built around two components of focus. The first is around use cases. Okay, what are the most important use cases in the market? And for the most part, we believe those use cases are very sector specific. Doesn't mean we can't learn from other sectors and apply them across sector, but we believe we've got to really understand the use cases and how AI can apply to aerospace and defense, how it can apply to manufacturing, how it can apply to retail banking. And we believe those use cases are very, very specific. Another aspect about those use cases is they need to be very performance-based. Okay, we're not looking to be everything to everybody in the market with AI. We're going to work with customers on some of their most complex issues and complex problems, and how can AI become a factor to actually solve those. So a couple of examples. The work we're doing now globally in the area of fraud detection in banking is a good example of very much a sector use case with a high performance impact associated with it. Work we're doing in the life sciences space with ingestible sensors and cameras and taking the data from that and then analyzing it and doing more predictive analytics around it. Again, that's a case very sector specific, okay, with a very, very big performance outcome-based component to it. So those are the types of, very, very stringent, high-impact use cases that we're going to focus on. And another domain of use cases we're going to focus on is around purpose-based AI applications. And what I mean by those is companies today, as many of you know from the companies you represent, are focused on some type of mission or social good. And so is Capgemini. We have a very, very prominent corporate social responsibility program, and we're always ranked as one of the top ethical companies in the world. So what we want to do is we also want to help our clients when they look at their social good purposes and missions and the things that they really hold as high values for them and their employees and their shareholders. We want to be able to work with them on applying AI to those very, very important purpose-based use cases. So that's kind of the first part of focus. And the second part of focus has to do with applying AI and applying AI technologies. We don't believe that AI is all about automation, okay? We think AI certainly involves automation, but we don't believe that's the whole story. And we certainly don't believe the purpose of AI is to eliminate jobs and to optimize costs and that type of thing. Certainly, there's some of that naturally will occur, but we also believe that AI is a great opportunity to assist workers, to augment workers for greater productivity, and actually to disrupt in the market and create new opportunities. If you look at the history of technology innovations, there's always been a net positive in terms of employment. There might be dislocating, there might be reskilling required and new jobs created, but that's our focus as well. So while automation is certainly part of AI, again, I just want to reinforce that when we think about applying AI, we think heavily around assisting, augmentation, and disrupting. And we think probably 3/4 to as much as 80% of our AI work will be shifted to those 3 domains on the right. The second area is around portfolio, and Ron had a slide earlier. I saw some of you taking pictures this morning. His slides had a lot more text on them than mine do. But there are 3 aspects of the portfolio, and I want to go through those again with you in a little more detail, because I think not only is this part of the portfolio that we're going to bring to market, but I think when you think about AI in your company, I think this is a great way to think about how can I apply AI and what can AI mean to my company. So the first is around Activate. And what we did when we looked at the AI landscape, what we found is there's some very acute problems in the marketplace today that companies are challenged by when it comes to AI that have to be solved. And we think when we think about ourselves, we see a very, very compelling and end-to-end set of capabilities within Capgemini, from consulting and advisory, systems integration, outsourcing, and managed services. So our thinking was, how can we marry those capabilities with these acute challenges in the market? And probably the most prominent acute challenge we find today with customers is people want to do something with AI, and they may find a project and apply AI to it, and things happen. But if they keep doing that, it's tantamount to building a house of cards, if you will, because the infrastructure is not in place to sustain those AI projects and AI capabilities over time. So the area of Activate, as Ron mentioned this morning, is helping a company get ready for an AI world. So it's things like AI strategy, and what does your AI journey look like, and how do you prioritize, and what should be the first and second and third steps to take on that journey. It looks at issues like ecosystem. Who are my partners in an AI world, and how do I get access to the many startups and scale-ups around the world that have incredibly useful technology to what I'm trying to solve? It looks at talent. I'm obviously not from France. You can probably tell by my Parisian accent or lack of it. But in the US, when you get out into the middle of the United States, you're not going to find places that a lot of data scientists are going to want to go and move and spend their careers working, as an example, okay? So the question becomes, for companies like that, how do they get access to the talent they're going to need to really be more of an AI-first kind of company? When you look at subjects like security and privacy and trust, how do you deal with issues along those lines as well? Okay, and when you look at infrastructure, infrastructure is so critical in an AI world. Where's your compute power going to come from, and your network, and how are you going to architect the kind of solutions you're going to need? So all this is the kind of work that we do in this Activate area. And again, as companies, one thing I would really impress upon you as you begin your AI journey, think about all the things that need to be in place to really become much more of an AI or insights-driven company going forward. Ron did, I think, a nice piece on Transform today, and this is where kind of the use cases are. This is, what problems are we trying to solve, and how can we apply AI to solve them, and how do we go ahead and do that? But the point I want to make on the Transform is, historically, AI has been applied as a cost reduction or an efficiency type of technology play. Why? Because it's been focused very much on automation up until now. And our belief is, as you look at the kind of the evolution of AI, you're going to see it applied much more to things like productivity, cycle time reduction, defect reduction, quality improvements, and ultimately growth in new revenue streams. So our objective in Transform, and again, advice I would give my clients, is don't think about AI as just a play for cost efficiency. Look at it as, how can I apply it to those other dimensions of business performance, ultimately, and focusing on how can AI contribute to growth in my organization as well. And then reimagine, as Ron said this morning, I think is an incredibly exciting area. And this is just answering the fundamental question, what can I do today in terms of product mix, service mix, experience mix, business models, that with AI I could do? How do I start to reimagine parts of my business and actually develop new capabilities and new offers and new products because of AI. Again, I think a very, very exciting set of opportunities in the marketplace on that subject. The next pillar of our Perform AI strategy is around the platforms that we've built, and I'm not going to take you through all of these. I just want to highlight a couple of things that I think are a little bit unique here. So first of all, in Capgemini, we have I think a very, very sound sector strategy where we have vertical industry expertise along many industry sectors. And then we also have a series of global business lines, things like an insights and data practice that Ron is part of, an engineering services service line that Patrice, our host today, is part of. We have a cloud, cybersecurity, and infrastructure global service line. And then 2 weeks ago, we just introduced Capgemini Invent, where we're housing a lot of our digital transformation and consulting capabilities and some of our newer innovation capabilities as well. Those all form a very, very powerful platform, if you will, of domain expertise to bring into the AI market. So again, this allows us to not focus just on the technology, but on the real business problems and business opportunities that we can address. The other one to point out is around ecosystem. And I mentioned ecosystem before. I think ecosystem's incredibly important. You know, we've got a lot of our ecosystem partners here today, and we are obsessed with continuing to build out that ecosystem, and we think it's very important. And for us, ecosystem isn't just, you know, the global players, of which some are here today, but they're also the regional players, the startups and scale-ups around the world, and many of the venture capital and private equity companies as well. Because getting access to the best AI technology and capabilities wherever it is in the world is absolutely paramount to serving our customers going forward. And then a last comment about delivery. So in Capgemini, we have over half of our employee base in India, so over 100,000 colleagues operate in India with world-class delivery capabilities. We have our applied innovation exchanges, 12 of those around the world, one on this floor, just down the hall, which does some leading-edge work in the area of how to apply innovation. And then we just launched this summer something called an AI Hive, which allows us to do onshore development of AI use cases and applications. And when we put those three capabilities together, it's very much a world-class capability to deliver AI solutions at scale, with a high degree of cycle time compression or speed, and a lot of customer intimacy in the field and in the market. So we think that's a very, very powerful model. And then the last thing I just want to mention is this concept of AI adoption, and this gets back to being an infused company. And again, this is kind of, you know, our model within Capgemini, but I think as you think about your businesses and think about becoming much more AI-driven, you know, think about, again, how do I build AI into my products and services? How do I build AI into how I develop and deliver and manufacture those products and services? And how do I apply AI into my internal functions? Because I can get some significant productivity and cost benefits out of applying AI to just my standard, you know, back office and front office processes in the company. So just to sum up this second piece, I think, you know, again, what can we offer you in the market in terms of AI? I think, you know, one, a very, very compelling, laser-focused ambition on who we are looking to become. I think a very formidable response to the market. You'll be hearing a lot more about Perform AI in the weeks and months ahead. 5 key principles that define how we think about how we operate. Speed, we think, is critical. We believe there's value in velocity. We believe scale is absolutely critical. Certainty is very important. Trust, as I mentioned, and then intelligence in more and more of what we do. And then lastly, the impact we're trying to achieve, again, is superior, sustainable, and trusted business performance. So that's the AI story. And then finally, I want to transition to a piece of work we did in the UK. And I think, you know, a video speaks 1,000 words. But just to set it up, we engaged with the driver's agency in the UK and talked a lot about with them on how can we create a new experience for how citizens interact with this agency, which I don't know about France, but I can tell you in the US, it's probably one of the worst experiences any individual could ever have dealing with a motor vehicle agency. And I don't think in the UK it's much better. But this was a real challenge of how could they change the game and really disrupt how that interface took place. And because over 70% of the people that interact with that agency are first-time interactors, millennials more, how can they make sure that that first interaction with the government is a real positive experience and not something that someone never, ever wants to do again? So if we could take a look at the video, I think it's a great way to get the message across.
With over 70% of applicants under 25, the theory test is often young people's first engagement with government. It's hugely important we get it right. The way they will take the theory test today, however, is exactly the same as how people took it over 15 years ago. It still requires you to actually go to one of our testing centres. But how can you enable people to do the test digitally? That's the challenge we set ourselves, to create a theory test fit for the future.
Capgemini's AIE is a global innovation platform that enables customers to discover, visualize, and experiment with innovation in an accelerated environment in order to identify new opportunities quickly.
Aside from being an interesting challenge, what we really loved about this project was it was an opportunity to bring digital to a public service that touches so many people.
Over the course of 6 weeks, an incredibly tight time frame, we went from rapid ideation, development, delivery, making the most of the expertise from the AIE's broad network of startups and digital disruptors to come up with a viable solution to the DVSA's challenge.
With Capgemini and the Applied Innovation Exchange, what we saw was a very rapid way of delivering things, something where a prototype could be handed back to us, where we could get that feel and look and experience.
As well as including the DVSA in everything we did, consumer feedback was a vital part of the process.
The real advantage of the approach that was presented back to us was real feedback, real personas of real people. That piece of work that we did and the prototype has given us the confidence that our ambition for the future of the theory test is exactly the right place to aim.
One of the AIE's core aims is to take the fear factor out of innovation and show just how efficient it can be. This project was a great opportunity to demonstrate our approach.
Capgemini and the AIE have helped us plot a roadmap to a digital version of the theory test that is both realistic and achievable. We see a future where the theory test is something you take, not somewhere you go.
So a very small, but I think a very compelling example of applying AI by taking a very, very high-profile use case, combining it with our Applied Innovation Exchange for acceleration, and coming out with, I think, a very compelling solution. So that's what we've got on AI. Again, I think AI, again, we could spend hours talking about this subject. It's phenomenal, it's fascinating, it's disruptive, and it's going to be, I think, one of the biggest impacts many of us will see in our careers for the foreseeable future. So we're excited about it. We hope you are, and happy to spend as much time as you like after the program today talking further about it. So thanks very much.